What is up? I guess, hi, I'm Ryan, and I created a app called Niched, but that's not exactly what this podcast is about. I threw most of this together this morning, so in light of what happened last week with Charlie Kirk, I believe that we need more voices out there. People need to come and speak up and have courage. And not only that, but we need people to be interacting in things that aren't just political as well. So that's the space that I hope to fill with this podcast. I hope that we're able to create a community where we can talk to one another, have conversations, and be human beings to one another. So if anybody has a topic they want to talk about, throw it in the chat. If you're watching after this, I intend to be here every day at 2 p.m. Eastern for now. If that ends up not working or I choose a different time, I'll, of course, let everyone know. So I'd like to talk first a little bit about what I believe is an important mentality and ideology for us as Americans to hold moving forward. First off, Charlie was a unique character on the political scene. We hadn't really seen anybody like him in a very long time, especially in the last 20 years since everything got so polarized. But he was able to have gracious conversations with people, to give people the opportunity to push back against his ideology and to have civil discourse in the public square. So I hope to do some of that here. I want to have people call in, guests on the show, all those sorts of things that we can do now digitally as well. I don't think it's as good as being face to face with someone, but I do think that we can make some strides in that arena. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is we need to define who our allies and our enemies are, in my opinion. In America for too long, it's been this left versus right type of thing. And I think in the last week, in light of some reactions to Charlie being assassinated, we have seen a lot of people's true colors. And for me, it's not about left and right anymore. It's not about if you are on the Democratic side of the political aisle or the Republican side of the political aisle. What it's about for me is if you're an American, if you're a patriot, or if you're not. And there are a lot of people over the last week or so who have shown that they may hold American citizenship, but they are not Americans. They believe that it was a good thing that Charlie died. They will call him things like a Nazi and a fascist for the great crime of him having conversations with people and speaking up. So I think it's important to give the perspective that the left is not the enemy. It's the leftists that are the enemy. It's the true fascists, the people who want to control speech, which fascism has always come out of the left side of the aisle, the extreme side of the left aisle. But if you're liberal and you believe in more social programs, hey, that's cool. I get it. Most of us can define what the problems are in America. It's just depending on ideology, we have different solutions. Oftentimes the left wants the government to solve the problem, and oftentimes the right wants the local communities to solve the problem. But we all are defining the same problem. Someone who looks at the assassination of someone like Charlie Kirk, or anyone for that matter, and says this is a good thing, that they do not hold with the ideals that we want to have here in America. So over the next couple of weeks, I am also starting a couple of interesting initiatives to help with the public discourse on those types of things as well. What else? Charlie was very faithful. Charlie was a Christian. I'm not confident that he was when he first came onto the public scene, but in the past number of years, he became very vocal about it. Many times he could not find a great deal of common ground with someone, and he would point everything back to Christ, which was very encouraging to me to see, because to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of Charlie Kirk. I wasn't sitting there waiting for his videos to come out. I wasn't looking for it. I didn't go search for Charlie Kirk videos, but they came up in my feed because he was everywhere. He was in all spaces and his videos were always at the forefront of anything political. And he was just a man of great courage, a man of great conviction of his ideology, and he spoke up about it. And I don't know what really is more American than that, having the courage to speak up about what you believe, whether that be what Charlie Kirk believed or anything else for that matter. So, again, I hope to be able to provide a space where we can talk and have conversations about things that are not just political. In the last week, two interesting things happened to me. Not so unique as to they wouldn't happen to anybody, but unique in the sense that they don't happen all the time. So I was sitting at a park that is by a creek near my house, and a guy came up to my window. My windows were down. It was a nice day out. He said, "Hey, do you have any jumper cables?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. Give me a second. Which one's your car? I'll come down to you." And you might be saying to yourself, "Well, yeah, that's normal. Of course we're going to jump somebody's car." And the reason I'm telling this, and it kind of stuck in my mind, was it's like, yes, of course we're going to do that. I didn't say, "Well, give me a second. What's your political belief? Who did you vote for before I tell you if I have jumper cables and if I'm willing to help? What's your religion? What's your sexual orientation?" I didn't ask those questions. He didn't come up to me and said, "Hey, I'm curious. Who did you vote for? What's your sexual orientation? What God do you worship?" No, he had a problem. He needed his car jumped. He didn't, in that moment, he didn't care about those things. I didn't care about those things because we had a moment where where one person could help the other, and we could. Again, I'm not telling this story to pat myself on the back. I'm saying this to show anyone who's listening, we have these interactions all the time. If you work as a cashier somewhere, you don't ask those questions. Those questions don't pop in your mind before you ring the guy out and you get him whatever he was purchasing. So I then went and I jumped his car and we had a nice little conversation, and he was telling me how he was a dad and he was going to pick up his daughter for after school, and that nobody was home right now that he could even call. So, and again, being a nice day, there were lots of people at this park, but I happened to be the first one he talked to, so I was able to go and help him, not caring anything about his ideological beliefs, but knowing this guy is just a citizen. He's a neighbor, whether I live near him or not. He's someone I came in contact with, and showing him the courtesy of humanity is essentially what was happening there. And most I can't think of anybody who would think twice about that, right? And that's kind of the point. And Charlie having open air conversations with people about things, it's the same exact idea. He was just giving people the time of day. He always said, "Come to the front of the line." The second thing that happened, was this yesterday or the day before? I can't remember. But I was sitting on my back porch, and I live in a city, so I have a side street that goes behind my house, and then there's houses behind that as well. And my neighbors across the street were sitting out on the porch, and all of a sudden, the three of us looked up, and there was a little boy without shoes, in a diaper, no shirt on, right? So immediately we went to this little boy's aid, and it turned out he was nonverbal or autistic or something along those lines. He didn't say a word to anybody the whole time. And we tried to ask him where he lived, and he couldn't tell us. So we called the police so that they could show up and kind of take custody of him momentarily so that we could try and figure out where this boy lived, where his parents were. And I probably walked a mile. I walked the whole way around the block, just asking anybody who was out. I took a picture of the boy and showed people around, right? It's the right thing to do. There's right things to do. And we found his parents, which is great, right? Awesome. We found his parents. We were able to put the kid back into their care. And we were able to go and move on from the day. Obviously, there was police reports written. My wife's a nurse, so she has to report things like that when she comes across it. She's legally obligated to in order to keep her license. There's other people who live near me who said they're in the same situation. So it kind of stinks a little bit that the kid got away from his parents, but they did, and the problem was solved. But we came together as a community. I know my neighbor doesn't vote the same way I do, right? I don't know what their religion is, but I know they've put signs out in their front yard. I don't care. It doesn't matter. In that situation, there's a little boy who needs help. And again, no one thinks twice about these things. I've seen just as many videos of liberals since everything that happened to Charlie Kirk happened saying, man, if this is the reaction of my side of the party, I'm not sure that I'm in the right party. Or, I'm registering Republican now. And again, it's not about that. I don't care who you register for, but I think we need to come together as Americans. This is, if you're old enough to remember 9/11, we all kind of came together after 9/11 and put our differences aside. There is an enemy in this country, and they're called leftists. They believe that the assassination of someone who speaks, who exercises their freedom of speech rights, is a fascist and a bigot and everything else. We had a senator just last week suggest that the rights we have are given by government and not what the founder said, which is pretty simple to understand. So I question his intelligence level, which is unfortunate. But the Senator Kaine from Virginia, I believe Kaine's his last name. He was, I don't know if anybody else remembers this, but I'm not young enough to not remember that he was running with Hillary Clinton in 2016 or 2015 as the VP choice. And he's in one of these side meetings for something, and he's saying, the government gives us the rights. Government gives us the right to speak. They give us the right to bear arms and those sorts of things. And Senator Cruz came back and he essentially said, hey, look, it's pretty simple. It says they're God-given rights. I don't know if anybody's ever read some of our founding father documents, but there were a lot of founding fathers who were even on the fence about making a Bill of Rights because they felt that if we wrote it down as a government, it meant at some time in the future, the government could then come and quote unquote take away those rights, even though that you can't remove my rights from me if they're God-given. So we're in a time where people don't understand how to be civil. We're in a time, we've been in a civil Cold War, is what I've always called it, for probably 20 years now, if not longer. And it's just boiling under the surface, and we've got to move away from that. We have two options. We're either going to move away from it, or we're going to move towards an actual conflict. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to speak up. If anyone who is in the chat right now, I know I have a few people, have any topics they want to talk about, this is your podcast. I just happen to be steering the ship, I guess. I would love to talk about anything. We're going to look at a handful of things here. And yeah, I intend to be here again tomorrow and the next day and the day after that, because we need to have conversations. We need to normalize one another. We can't keep vilifying the other side, because each and every one of us are human beings. Each and every one of us are made in the image of God, and that deserves a great deal of respect. It's why we have things like murder laws on the books. It's why we have a sense of judicial morality and ethics in our country. It's why we have these beautiful freedoms that were codified into law, that without them, no other country would probably have ever followed suit. Because when we became a country, there was a bunch of warring city-states in a lot of the countries. We think, oh, those are part of the West. Those are beautiful places to be, that sort of thing. So I thank everyone for being here. I thank everyone who's watching right now. Let's get into a couple of things. Let's see if we can find something to talk about. I did see, let's check chat real quick. I did see something interesting. Put this over here. Oh yeah, I forgot my headphones. There we go. Okay, let me pause that. Oh no. Well, I hope that wasn't recording the whole time, because that would be annoying. I had one of the streams playing in the back. Omar, there's lots of topics that are taboo. You mean any topics that I won't talk about? I'm sure you could find one, brother. I'm sure there's a topic that I would feel is not appropriate, but you would be the guy to find it. No, I don't think so. Not off the top of my head. I think there's a gracious way to pretty much talk about anything. This podcast isn't geared towards kids or anything like that, so we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Um, unless I don't feel comfortable talking about it, but I can't think of anything that I wouldn't at least have a comment on. All right. What I saw here. So I went to trending on Twitter to see what was going on. So you've got people who are putting graffiti up, F Charlie Kirk, and Ted Cruz went to paint over it, which, you can call that a political stunt, but um, I mean that's a cool thing for a public servant to do. He could have just sat in his office too, and we don't need stuff like that sitting up. It's not good for discourse. It's not good for healing the country, which we need right now. When I was a kid, we didn't think about this stuff first. We thought about how we could play cops and robbers and what new Nerf gun we wanted and what cool thing was on the what cool thing is on the next video games, or what cool new video games coming out on the system. So, is the Earth flat? No, the Earth isn't flat. Uh, the Earth isn't flat. Uh, you want me to go into that more deeply? I will. I'll assume you want me to go into that more deeply, Omar. Yeah, exactly. The Earth is not flat because we would have had to have thousands, if not tens of thousands, of people be a part of the conspiracy, keep their mouths shut for half a century about it, um, not talk about it. So that's the first thing that is like, okay, it's hard for me to believe. Um, the other thing too is I don't think that uh, guys like Elon Musk would be investing billions upon billions of dollars to go to Mars if we haven't gone to the moon first, or if the Earth was flat. Because the way I understand it is flat earthers believe that those are, the planets are actually just lights in the sky, not places we can get to. If you're a flat earther, Omar, you can tell me I'm wrong there. But so there's that. Um, there's some things that I've seen that are like, okay, that's interesting. Nothing that comes to mind, but nothing very convincing either. I think part of the problem with anything scientific, yeah, anything centering around science, it's whenever anything new comes out, it's like, yes, this is definitively the way things are, and then it's like Galileo makes a telescope, and all of a sudden he realizes, I don't think it was Galileo, but because he made the telescope, he can start looking at the sky, and then we realize we're not the center of the universe like we used to think, and it's just science is a study of positing theories, and those theories change over time. They constantly are in flux and in motion as we learn more and better science and better mathematics. We're able to understand the world around us that God has created much better. So, no, the Earth isn't flat. Good question, Omar. Thanks for starting us out on a banger. What else do we have going on here? What do you guys want to talk about? Politics? Do you want to talk about not politics? I, for one, am excited that it's cooling off. I don't know where everybody else lives, but I'm up here in the Northeast, in Pennsylvania. It's starting to cool off and be nicer out, which is exciting because I love to ski. And yeah, I'm excited for skiing this winter. What else do we have going on here? Let's look at law and government. All right. Fox 10 Phoenix. Let's see what this is about. All right. So it looks like Charlie Kirk's memorial was destroyed yesterday. The brief. Rider Coral 19 was arrested after he destroyed a mural at Turning Point USA's Phoenix headquarters on September 14th. The memorial is for slain right-wing political activist Charlie Kirk. Yeah, we know all that. It's just so sad. He had 2 little kids, and I think this is why it affected me so much. He had 2 little kids that were the same age as my little kids. And he had a daughter that was the same age as my daughter. Not had. He has a daughter. Well, I guess he had. Regardless, his daughter is the same age as my daughter. His son is the same age as my son. And I think the reason it hit me so hard, and you guys can tell me if you don't want to hear more about this, but I think the reason that hit me so hard is because of partially the idea that, Charlie really didn't say anything all that divisive. His tone was not as nice as the leftists would like to be spoken to, but he was matter of fact. He was just straightforward. It's part of the reason I respected him, and he was just talking about things that whatever the person came up wanted to talk about. And, half the time you see these leftist college students come up, ask him a question, and then accuse him of trying to get clickbait types of things. It's like, well, you came to the mic. So they were mad at a guy for speaking. They're mad at a guy for saying what the vast majority of Americans feel. 20 years ago, everything Charlie would have said would have been just pretty much moderate, pretty much middle of the road, moderate types of ideas and things. Apart from his faith that he shared very courageously, especially in the last handful of years, he told young men to get married and find a job and have kids and be a part of society, right? That's what he told young men to do. That's not extreme in the slightest 20 years ago. It's trying to be made as extreme now. He told people to, love one another and care on one another. There were constantly times when the crowd was starting to get rowdy about something that someone who disagreed with him said, and he said, "Hey guys, calm down. Come on. Give this person the platform to speak. That's why we're here. Let's not be rude. Let's not be mean to them." There was no reason for that. So I think that's why it hit me so hard, because the conversations that Charlie had are the same conversations that I have when I'm at the cigar shop with people. It's the same conversation I have when I go to someone's house for a party and I talk to them about, what do they do for a living? What do they do for fun? What do they believe? And these were things that you were allowed to talk about these things back when I was growing up in the 90s. And now it's just like, oh, you can't talk about, during the Obama era, it was like, oh, you can't talk about politics out in public. You can't talk about Obama. You can't talk about God. But why can't we talk about those things? It's a self-imposed rule that has been put on one another. By whom? To what end? When we don't talk, we get more division. When we don't speak to one another, we get more distantly divided. And that's just not acceptable. It's not what we need right now. Well, my chat's dropped out. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys. If I'm going to try to get actual conversations on here, so it's not just me talking to the camera. I'd like to find a way to be able to have actual spoken conversations, have video potentially involved in that. But if you're interested in calling in, per se, for lack of a better term, and talking about a topic, make sure you go to the Discord link in the chat, or not in the chat, but in the description. Discord will allow us to connect. If you join the niche server there, it's also a way for you to give feedback on niched if that's something that you're interested in and to have conversations. But that way we'd be able to have kind of direct call with one another if somebody's interested in doing that. So the link for that is down in the description. All right, what else can we talk about here? Let's see what's trending again. Here, I'll show you guys what I'm seeing. That's my For You. Let's go to trending. Let's go to news. Hannah Einbinder wins Emmy. Does anyone care about the Emmys anymore? I don't. My wife and I tried to go on a date night the other night, and I thought it'd be nice to go to the movies. I don't think I've actually seen a movie in theaters since my first kid was born, and I'm looking through and there's like nothing interesting. So if anyone has movie recommendations, let me know. I don't know why that's a terribly difficult thing for me to do, but I get paralyzed when I'm trying to find a movie to watch. All right, trending in news. We've got, I don't know how Twitter works. Excuse me, X works. I don't know what to do here, guys. I don't think anybody's watching right now. I've been abandoned. If you're watching this later, this is the other thing. I don't have a name for the podcast. You can see the title right now is Unnamed Podcast Episode 1. I'm just doing this for Charlie because I have the courage to speak up about things and to provide a place where we can have conversations. And yeah, I just feel we need more of this. I'm a big believer in if you see a problem, you are uniquely qualified to do something about the issue. If you see a problem in the world, you're uniquely qualified to go and attack that. Not everybody thinks this way, right? But if you're in a family and you see a problem in the family and you just sit there and not say anything about it or not do anything about it, that problem's going to persist, right? And it's going to continue on and on until someone does something about it. But the problems you and I see are not the same problems that other people in the world see. So it takes a group effort to come and change things. And I think one thing that everybody agrees about right now is that we need to see some change in the world. Some people look at it from one vantage point, other people look at it from another vantage point, and we have different solutions for the problems that are out in the world. But everybody can agree that we need to change some things if we're going to continue down this great American experiment. So, in terms of the name of the podcast, I don't know what to call it. If it's going to live here on Niched, I've toyed with just having a Resist the Algorithm podcast. If it's going to live somewhere else, it could be named anything. The Ryan Malinowski Show. I don't know. But for now, these are for Charlie. I don't have an intro. I don't have an outro. I just want to talk to people. I want to have public discourse about things. Again, everybody seems online to want to talk about politics, and a lot of people want to talk about their religion and ideology, and we don't have to do that. A little bit about Niched, so that anyone who's watching this who doesn't know about it and maybe just stumbled across this video, Niched is a platform that I created, and the reason I created it is because I was looking at social media and I was waiting for years for it to get better, more technologically advanced, to give us things to be able to control what we see and how we see it. And after a decade or 15 years or so of waiting around for these simple codable technologies to be put into social media platforms, they just weren't. So I looked at social media platforms and I was talking to people about what they disliked about social media platforms. And essentially, I created a platform without any of those things in it. So the main couple of things that I identified that people really don't like about platforms is the algorithm and gatekeepers, as well as there's no consequences on social media platforms to just say whatever you want to say. And there are nuanced consequences out here in the real world for things like that. And the ability then to filter and choose. So those kind of four things were the four main problems I identified with social media. And Niched is a platform that removes all of those things. So Niched is the world's first human interaction platform. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's kind of silly. It's just another platform. Don't you post on it? Don't you do these things? Yeah, you do all the normal stuff that social media does. You have posting and you have sharing of media and videos and pictures and being able to follow people and that sort of thing. But I would make the argument that you can do that almost anywhere. You can do that on websites nowadays. You can follow certain topics from the Washington Post or the New York Times or whatever. You can create an RSS feed of a blog that you like and limit it only to certain categories that comes out. So you almost have more control over that type of stuff outside of social media than you do inside of social media. But I removed the algorithm and I removed gatekeepers. So there's no admins or moderators within certain groups telling you can or cannot interact with specific topics, that you can or cannot interact with specific ideas. Just like we have the freedom to do that out in the real world. We get to have a conversation in the real world about whatever we want with whomever we want. And, you know, if we have a friend, if we have friend A and we have topic A, and friend A says, I really don't like talking about topic A, most of the time, if we care for friend A, we say, okay, no problem. Let's talk about topic B. What do you want to talk about? And you move on. Most people aren't militant about it. Most people don't look at someone else's posts and call them Nazis and bigots or fascists or whatever, right? The name calling type of thing is just insane online because, to the third thing, there aren't any consequences. In the real world, if you say something to me, and I believe that men are going to understand this probably better than women, but if you say something to me, there's the underlying threat that I might respond in a poor way to you. There's a physical threat. There's the threat of, you know, me getting in a loud argument with you. There's lots of nuanced consequences there. So we can't just say anything we want to say out in the real world. Sure, we have free speech and technically we can, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's a mechanism in place out in society, out in the real world, that makes us weigh the potential consequences of what we're about to say or about to do. So on Niched, just like in a lot of mobile games, I put a in-app currency in that allows me to give you rewards and allows you to do more. So your first post of the day on Niched, you're rewarded for. You're given enough tokens to actually make another post, or you're able to go and do some comments and that sort of thing. As people interact with your post, if the quality of your post is high, more people will interact. You are getting more of this in-app currency. It's called Stardust. So if someone likes your post, you get 1 Stardust. If someone comments on your post, you get 2. So if you create good content, if you create content that people want to see and want to interact with, that gives you more Stardust for you to then go out and make more posts or make more comments or interact more on the platform. So the idea is trying to elevate quality over quantity, which social media wants to elevate quantity over quality. And again, it's there to more mirror what our conversations look like in the real world. If you get together with a friend, you have a limited amount of time to hang out with that friend. You don't have an unlimited amount of time. You've got a starting time, and you usually have a hard stop. Now that might be when you're exhausted at the end of the night and you go collapse on the couch or whatever. If you're young, if you're older, you might need to get home by a certain time so you can get to bed by a certain time so you can take care of your kids in the morning or something like that. But when we're in the real world, most people just naturally try and make the conversation as high of a quality as possible. Not all people. We all have we all have one or two friends where we're like, oh, why are they in the friend group? But that's the idea behind Stardust. What was the fourth thing I said? You got the algorithm, you got gatekeepers, you got Stardust, and you've got the functionality put into your hand. So instead of trusting an algorithm to show you things, I think we all have the experience before where we're looking for tires for our car, and then we find tires for our car and we buy tires for our car, and then for 6 more months we get tire ads, right? So the algorithm isn't correct most of the time. And depending on the platform you're on, it's just plastered with advertisements everywhere. So there's one behavior change on Niched when you make a post. What you have to do is you have to put the post into a certain category of a niche. Niches are kind of like super hashtags. They're categories that are curated by the company of top level types of things. So you would have a category like entertainment, and under entertainment you might have movies, and then under movies you might have sci-fi movies, right? And then there's also brands and products as well built in, so that if you have a sci-fi movie, it might be Star Wars and then A New Hope or something like that. Or I guess Disney would be the brand, and Star Wars is definitely the brand. Don't get me on that, guys. So the idea behind that is when you attach one of these niches to the post, you're then able to filter out what you do and you do not want to see. You get to follow niches as well as following people. Eventually, I want it to be sophisticated enough that you can say, hey, I like Ryan when he's out kayaking and fishing and skiing. I don't want to see anything about Ryan's politics. He's got a too well-formed ideological worldview. He's thought about everything. He's always right. And I don't want to see any of that because I don't have the courage of conviction of my own ideology, or whatever you want to say. So that's what Niched is. Niched is a new type of platform. If you're interested in learning about it, go to resistthealgorithm.com. That's what this channel that this is airing on is all about. You can go back and look at old videos. This is sponsored by Niched. Niched is my baby. I want to see it grow and succeed and be a place where people can curate their online experience and their own online environment, so they get to see exactly what they want to see when they want to see it. Future plans are to have different feeds that automatically come up at certain times, so you can schedule your finance and news feed for the morning when you're drinking your coffee, and you can schedule your cat video feed for your lunch break, and you can schedule whatever your adventure and outdoor lifestyle types of video feed for the evening when you want to unwind and relax. And essentially you get exactly what you want whenever you want, and the power's in your hand. So that's what this podcast is about too. I want you guys to have the power and the ability to come in and have some sort of ownership over this. I want you to be able to help drive the conversation, and we talk about things that the community wants to talk about. We shouldn't just be dragged along through life by the media. We shouldn't be dragged along through life through whatever we see on social media. We should all be critical thinkers. We should be able to have the ability to make decisions on our own about certain topics. And unfortunately, that's something that's lost right now at this time in history. And it's sad, because when people don't have the courage of their convictions, they end up lashing out with violence. Violence is what fills the void when conversations and discourse doesn't happen anymore. So, the last thing I think I might want to talk about real quick is there is always the ability for redemption. There's always the ability to come back. One of the most quoted things in the Bible is you should love your enemies, right? And that's true. But in that statement being made, there's a recognition that we as people have enemies. Now, what does loving your enemy mean? Because earlier I talked about how we have enemies, and our enemy are, if you're an American, if you're a patriot, our enemy is the leftists. It's not the liberals, it's not the left, it's the leftists, right? And it's not the right, it's not the moderates, it's the leftists. The extremists, the ones who don't have any love for the country, who don't recognize that America is the greatest nation that ever existed. So, what does it look like to love your enemy? Well, first off, we have to recognize that our enemy wants to kill us. They showed us that last week, that our enemy wants to kill us. They have no love for having civil discourse. They have no love for having diverse opinions being spoken about in the public square. So they want to kill us. We also recognize that we have enemies, and we also recognize that we have to love our enemies. So how does that all fit together? Well, I think that first off, we need to pray for our enemies. We need to pray that they see the error of their ways. I'm not saying that they become religious at all necessarily. I think that's a big leap from leftism to being religious, Christian, Jewish, even Muslim as well. There is overlap between those three religions. There's also not overlap on those three religions, but we can find common ground is my point. So I'm not saying that we pray that they become religious, but they see the error, at least, of their ways. They see the error in praising someone who was just killed and assassinated. There's a lot of talk of, oh, I wish these people would feel the same way about the little kids. And I do want to be clear. We do all feel that way whenever a tragedy like that happens. But again, I talked about it earlier. I think the difference for me with Charlie is that it was targeted, it was political, and Charlie was pretty much a middle of the road guy. The left kept shifting the Overton window so much that moderates got pushed into they got pushed to the right. They got pushed into that category. So we have an enemy. We need to love our enemy. We need to pray for our enemy. Yes, let's pray for their salvation. Let's pray that they have a road to Damascus moment where they just turn completely and come to Jesus. But we also have to recognize that we have an enemy. And they asked us a question last week. And then they showed us their true colors, reinforcing the question they asked last week. They asked, how strongly do we believe in America? Are we willing to die for America? Again, my allies are liberals, moderates, conservatives. Democrats, classical Democrats, moderates, Republicans. Those are my allies. Those are my friends. Those are my American patriots. That we also have patriots abroad. We have people abroad who do not yet have American citizenship, who believe in the American ideas and ideology. And I want you to know, too, if you're listening, you need to ask yourself the question. We have enemies within our borders that hate us. We have enemies within our borders that don't want us to have freedoms. We have enemies within our borders that want to dictate from on high how we can live. And they're called the leftists. And they came out of the left, and the Democrats do have some responsibility over this for allowing them to be a part of their party. The Republicans don't allow the extremists on the right to be a part of their party. And then the middle of the road Republicans get called Nazis and fascists all the time. And now that word doesn't mean anything either, right? You call someone a Nazi or fascist who is a Republican, and they're just like, okay, and what is that? A bigot? Oh, okay. Bigot just means that I'm religious. Okay. A bigot just means that I have, you know, more traditional views on how the American law should be. So I say all that to say that it is fully within our enemy's ability to not be our enemy anymore. They can choose to do differently what they're choosing to do. We need America. We need to band together. We need to fight against leftism and the wokeist ideology, the woke ideology that says that we should, and it's right to go and say that it's good that a man has died. It's good that, a man has been assassinated. So that's my those are kind of my final thoughts for today. Be praying for your friends, but even more so, be praying for our enemies, and be ready. If you are a patriot, right, left, or center, exercise your God-given rights to speak. Exercise your God-given right to share your ideology. Don't just sit there when you hear something egregious anymore. Speak up about it. Have the courage of your convictions. You believe these things. You say to yourself all the time, you believe these things. Have the courage to speak up about it. Have the courage to say it out loud. Have the courage to not allow the conversation to move on from a weak point, because the leftist ideology is the weakest of ideologies. Say something. My second suggestion to you is, if you don't own a firearm, go buy one. The reason being is a well-armed society is a polite society. And the reason we have the Second Amendment is to protect ourselves from tyranny, whether that comes from, domestic ideologies like leftism, or that comes from the government. We are armed so we can protect ourselves from tyranny, not so we can go hunt, not so that we can, feel power from carrying a firearm on our hip or whatever. It's there to protect us. And if conversations don't work, the next logical step is civil war. Not just a cold civil war, but actually breaking out into fighting our countrymen, our friends, our family, potentially. These types of ideologies have divided families, just like it did 150, 160 years ago. It divided families. The third thing I would say is, if you buy a firearm, please learn how to use it. Take it to the range. Go shooting. Ask a friend that you know who knows how to use it. If you don't know somebody, there's groups online that you can hop into and say, hey, I'm new to this firearm thing. I would really love if someone could show me how to use it. You can go and pay for a class for a couple $100. It's well worth it to be comfortable with your firearm and to know how to use it. So those are my thoughts for today. I'll be back here again tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. I'm excited to see what we can grow here. Godspeed. I'm praying for each and every one of you. Thank you for your time today. I'm out.